Hey guys, it's Jenny. Welcome back to the Bookworms Buddy. It is time for Tackle My TBR. So last week I started out with Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulik. I don't know how you say his last name. I had an old booktube friend who, from years ago, who was talking about how she had just read this book and she really enjoyed it. And that reminded me of the fact that I had this book and I needed to get it read. So I picked it up and really enjoyed it. In this story, we're following Mallory, she had a very intensive addiction to drugs. And now she is on the up, and she's been sober for several years, and it's time for her to move on and live her life. And so her sponsor tells her about Ted and Carolyn, who have a son, Teddy, and he needs to have a nanny. There is a place to live, a guest house on the property, so she decides to go check it out. She gets hired, and she is now Teddy's nanny. Now, Teddy loves to draw pictures. He loves to give pictures to her, to his parents. He also has a imaginary friend as well. As time goes on, Teddy's pictures start to change a little bit, and they're heading more towards dark and sinister. And she is going to have to figure that out. Mallory's going to have to figure out what's going on, who's involved, what's happening. And that's pretty much the story. Like I said before in my, I think Thriller Thursday, I was talking about how I really loved how the pictures added so much to the story. So you're actually seeing that story evolving as you're reading this story. And that really kind of made it interesting. And I really loved the graphics and stuff that was in it. I also liked how the author kept having me guess. I'm like, oh, it's probably her, it's probably Mallory, and she's just doing it, she's not realizing it, because they talk about how, and how her brain can be altered, and things may happen that she's not aware of, and, stuff like that. And Mallory was the first person to say, hey, maybe it is me. So then my mind started going that way. But I questioned everything in this book. It was absolutely fantastic. I loved the characters, really enjoyed Mallory, really enjoyed Teddy as well. It's a very fluid story. It's not over the top dramatic or intense. So if you don't like the very intense thriller books, then you could probably handle this one. I thought that it was mild in that matter. So I think anybody could really enjoy this story. Fantastic. I ended up giving it 5 stars. Maybe that was generous, but I really enjoyed the book. And then the second book that I read last week was Midnight Strikes by Zebu Shanaz. I'm not sure. Here it is. I'm not sure what how you pronounce her name. Anyway, in this book we're following Anais, I think it's how you say it, and her family, who they're going over to Iberia to the Alcazar Kingdom, and this kingdom is ruled by the Cardonas, and she is going there with her family for her to find a husband. Now, her family is not as high up as the Cardonas are. But she's going there, and she is going to look for a husband. When she's there, something drastic happens. All of Alcazar crumbles because someone set bombs off, and everybody dies, except for Anais. She wakes up in her bed, and she relives it over and over and over. It was pretty good. I really did enjoy the story. I enjoyed the characters a lot. But that ending, I didn't really like the ending of it. I was just like, That's it. And I told my husband, there better be a part 2. There better be another book because I just didn't understand why it was ended the way it was. It just seemed odd to me. The book itself was very fluid. I enjoyed that part about it. Like I said, I really enjoyed the characters. And, it gave me that feel of Groundhog Day. Except, in this one, well, I guess in Groundhog Day too, different things happened because she approached things differently. So not everything, so it doesn't get repetitive. Where you're reading the same thing over and over and over. Little bits are changed in it each time she has to relive it. So it doesn't get too repetitive from that. But yeah, if the ending would have been more clearly written, I guess, it felt kind of unfinished. I don't know. I ended up rating it 3.5 stars. That rating can change if there is a book 2. I'm hoping there is. I learned about this book from Bobby over at Pagenator. She had gotten it in one of her, the Loot Crate or Owl Crate or whatever, she'd gotten the book. And I'm like, that sounds interesting. And I got it on my Kindle. And yeah, for the most part I enjoyed it. The ending needed to be wrapped up differently. Unless there's a book 2 and it explains things more. I don't know. But 3.5 stars because of that ending. Yeah. So then after I finished that book, I picked up The Longing of Lone Wolves by Lana, that name, because I can't say it. I've had this book on my shelf for quite a while. My sister and I were talking about books, and this one popped up on my Goodreads feed. And I looked it up and said, wow, that sounds really good. It was shortly after that I ended up ordering the book. In this book, we're following Clark, who is a female, and Rush, who is a male. Now, Rush is a Fae Guardian, but he did something wrong, which I don't know what it is he did wrong. It doesn't specify. And he gets cursed. Nobody can see him. He's like invisible, but he's in this land. And he sees Clark show up. Clark is a human, and she comes from Las Vegas, and apparently it's post-apocalyptic times, and she finds herself washing up on the shores of where Rush is, where it's beautiful and the grass is lush, and Vegas is just going underground and it's destroyed and there might be radiation and all that kind of stuff. So 2 different worlds here, and he is a Fae. So yeah, I don't know much more about it, only that she ends up being able to see him. And it really sounded interesting to me, so that's why I initially bought the book, and then I just happened to glance over on my shelf, and there it was sitting there saying, pick me. So I did. And like I said, not very far, page 30. So we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. Right now it's flowing pretty well. But that is what I read last week, guys. Let me know if you've read any of these and post in the comments below what your thoughts were. Or let me know what you read last week, and maybe I will check those out. But that's all I've got for you today, guys. But thanks for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.